Welcome to Java. Thank you kindly for joining me. It's October 15th, 2024, and it is also Tuesday. Now, yesterday was a holiday between Canada and the United States, but the stock markets were open. If you took a long holiday, I hope you're ready to go right back into it. Now, I want to take a short bit of attention here for this building. It is arguably one of the more important ones in the United States. For those of you that do not recognize it, it is Fort Knox in Kentucky. So, with this, we've got a lot of things I'd like to speak about, and let's get right into it, starting with risk. Risk in the markets right now, measured by the MMRI, has retraced a bit. Now, yesterday, as we were speaking about, the 10-year yield and relative strength of the dollar did both increase. That pressured markets a bit. They deflated and let a little bit of the risk out, if you will. As they dropped, they did recover a little bit more towards the end of the day. So we've still got highs in markets. We're in extreme greed territory in the fear greed meter, and this is just a lot of retailers still staying in here. Now, with this, we're keeping an eye on the 10-year yield and relative strength of the dollar, which both appear to be weakening a bit today. Now, if they do, as they do, this is giving a bit of green and some air to the stock market as they are rising a bit. Futures are still showing kind of flat, little bit mixed. So with this, yesterday being the holiday, the sentiment is still strongly into greed, and the volume increase today should bring initial volatility as the markets open. We're also watching the China trade, which I'll speak about in a minute. And we've got banks on deck. We've got more earnings coming in and chips as far as AI coming into play with NVIDIA, as well as some of the smaller ones that will influence stocks today and some singular movers. Now, I would like to speak about a couple of other things. The Dow up above 43,000 for the first time. We've got, as I said, big earnings coming in. With all of this, the extreme greed. Now, with this, we've got BlackRock CEO Larry Fink talking about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies having a bright future regardless of who becomes president of the United States. Now, with this, we're watching cryptocurrencies right now. Bitcoin just under $66,000. Now, that's a little bit of resistance. If it breaks through that, very likely heading towards 70,000. If it breaks back lower, 62 will serve as a bit of support. Not financial advice, but just watching those levels. So our calendar today, relatively on the light side. Now, what we've got the past couple of days is Fed speakers, kind of getting inundated with Fed speakers. Now, this entire front half of this year and ever since they started between the rate hike and rate cut cycle, Fed speakers were being watched more as indicators for the market. I think they are beginning to do this on purpose, basically flood the market so that they become a little bit more of white noise to the background and they get less attention. Now, they have been basically controlling the narrative of the markets, and I think they want to tone that down. So we'll watch forward what they do. We've got a couple more speaking today. We're getting the federal budget balance and then a couple of other reports, couple Wednesday prior to the market open. So really guided by earnings and watching other goings on. Now with the China trade, China is still supplying more economic stimulus into their economy. So that is giving them a boost. Their stock market, but their economy is still in underlying weakness. So with this underlying weakness, we're watching their stock market is beginning to show a bit more volatility. United States stock market and economy is either volatile and also under weakness with the economy, as we can see with jobs and business closures. Now we've got True Value declaring bankruptcy. They're the latest in a slew that have done this. As they do so, they will be letting go of all of their employees and cutting stores, shuttering some of the businesses. So with this is about Bitcoin, as I was saying, breaking loose towards 70,000 as that price increases. So what we're watching is the price of most asset classes are going up. This is basically kind of a gauge of inflation because it's not actual production that is increasing this, but rather the trades that are basically manipulating the values, if you will, and then inflation as a play of that. Now, along with this, I would like to mention oil specifically because oil is being manipulated possibly the most of all assets at this moment. And I'll talk about that more in a moment. But right now, we've got Boeing. They're one of the larger stories, definitely going to hear about this, entering a $10 billion credit agreement. Now, they've been under the pressure for quite some time now. They've got a lot of things that have been going on of late, not to mention the strike. Now, I'd like to mention them in a different light. And basically, I think the larger picture here is they are going to be the example set for businesses moving forward, standing their ground, hitting some weakness. They are going to be basically cutting employment. They cut 17,000 jobs and then restructuring from the inside out. And as we watch this, the unemployment will be affected, namely increase in unemployment as many of these cut back. So going back to oil, we've got major manipulation going on here from two fronts. The first is as a trade value behind being used basically as a currency between some of the trades on the larger states, also BRICS nations, as they are moving to de-dollarize. Now, this trade move is huge. The second part of this is that they're using this as a pressure mechanism in war. So the military industrial complex, depending upon the lifeblood, which is oil, and these trade nations using it as manipulation for currency and trade values for their other goods. Now we've got Gulf states asking the United States to stop Israel, Arab states arguing that bombing Iranian oil facilities would disrupt the United States election. So going a little further, we've got Iran vowing to retaliate against Israel if they do attack their energy sector, namely oil. So we've got Iran on the back of this also planning to become a member of the BRICS Development Bank. Now, this is underpinning what I was saying before, that they're going to use this backing as commodity for the currency that they are looking at using and de-dollarizing. Now, along with oil, as if Iran becomes governor of the Central Bank of Iran, if they become a member of the new development bank, they are producing large amounts of oil, and this could really disrupt the trade sector underpinning energy. So, with this, we've got gold accumulation by the BRICS countries, and this question asking if it's signaling incoming crisis. Well, I think it's a lot larger because gold is telling us a story through its increase in price, basically saying, yes, there is a crisis or at least a deflationary depression coming. And this is being signaled by not just BRICS nations, but all central banks purchasing gold. There are only a few minor ones that are selling their gold, namely to cover some of their debts that they can't otherwise raise capital for. So this is very telling sign of gold. Now, this also ties in with Saudi Arabia and why they may, quote unquote, open the spigot on oil production and crater crude prices. Now, as I was saying, this is major manipulation, not just through the prices, but also through trade. So we'll be keeping an eye on this because there are major things that tell the story of the real economy, aside from the inflation and basically fake money printing, which is what is currently propping up the market. So if you understand what is going on behind this, in reality, what we've got with trade goods that will affect what you're able to get in the future, and large part of this oil, shipping, and gold. So along with bond yields that tell us the stories of the currencies and the way that they're moving, we can see what is going on in the background. Now, a couple of other things I would like to mention prior to letting you go. The first one is North Korea blowing up parts of their Indo-Korean roads as a symbolic display of anger. Well, this headline is United States propaganda. And by propaganda, I mean in the way that it is slanted. It is true. North Korea is blowing up major Indo-Korean roads, meaning between the North and the South. Why are they doing this? If you have an understanding of war or the background of this, roads basically are made, their primary purpose is for mobilization of military, and then secondarily shipment of goods. So with this, in effect, by blowing up these main Indo-Korean roads, they are cutting off mobilization for South Korea, and it is not a display of anger as much as it is a preparation for strikes, and it is basically, again, it's military preparation and is tactical stance. So keeping an eye on the small things like this, other than the American slant of saying it's a temper tantrum, it's much more than that. So with this, we've got defense companies searching for scale in ammunition race for Ukraine. Now, not just for Ukraine, also supplying Israel this wars. We've got multiple wars going on, as well as what's going on in South Korea, North Korea now, and Taiwan with China. So we've got all of these proxy wars going on. The only true economy in the United States right now is weapon production. So with this, they're basically talking about the contractors all trying to boost this output and trying to get hold in this sector because it is one of the very few growing sectors in production. So the last thing I would like to basically speak about before ending this is that soldiers now, this is for the United States, to get a $240 a month bonus for operational developments. So what does this mean? They're calling it a new benefit for the standard of operational deployment pay. Now, basically, if you get sent away from your families anything more than, I believe it's 3 months, they're going to boost their pays, basically giving them poverty wages and then offering them this additional bonus, $240 a month, if they're going to deploy to dangerous areas and be away from their family. But more importantly, be away from their country and outside of bounds. Now, these are typically those that are fighting for their country, for the United States. And this is another tactic, basically, seen to get these patriotic people temporarily out. I believe there is a deeper agenda with this that I can't speak about here. But feel free to comment about it below if YT will allow you, or join our Discord page. Feel free to ask us questions there. So with this, I wish you all a wonderful trading day. And until I see you again, my friends, stay free.